The Buddha called it emptiness, and all of this fullness is in the emptiness. There's none of this that we can see, touch, feel. None of the sensory objects exist without emptiness. The emptiness is all through that, and science is now agreeing. It's all space. And they can only measure tiny particles, but it appears to be solid, but it's all space. The Buddha was saying that 2,500 years ago. He's the first quantum physicist. He's one of the greatest masters in written history, awakening, enlightenment. Is Buddha, right? Like Gautama the Buddha. And everybody knows who he is. 2,500 years later, we're still talking about him. And the discoveries he made and his incredible ability to convey them. And his core premise that you started everything was, life is suffering. That's what he said, life is suffering. And it's amazing, isn't it? All these people still following him, that's what he started with. A bit negative, no? Seems a bit down. But the deeper and deeper you look, and the more you meditate, and the quieter you get, and the simpler and simpler your life becomes, you start to notice how much suffering there is, and within yourself. And quite often, even what gets you to start looking within is that suffering you're going through. That's what motivates us to do something about it, to find out why, and what to do. What am I missing? Why are little children not suffering unless they're hungry? Why am I suffering a lot? What's the difference? I was once not this way. What happened? I was once innocent and clean and simple. And even then I would hurt myself, my body would hurt, and I would get sick and all these different things. So there's still suffering. But how can I minimize the suffering? How can I have a nice life? How can I have a life that's peaceful and content and life affirming and not a difficulty? So the other good news is in this Four Noble Truths, he said there's a way out. There's a way to heal. There's a way to not suffer. And the way to not suffer essentially is to work out what you are at your deepest level, and what you will find there is absolutely remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And it becomes, the miracle becomes, how does everybody not know about this? How is this kept secret? Why is everybody sleeping? Why isn't this taught in schools? Why have I been allowed to suffer? Why have I been taught to suffer? Why have I been lied to? Why have I been told if I do X, Y, Z and tick all these boxes, I'll end up, primary school, high school, college, whatever it is, job, and suddenly at some point everything's going to be wonderful. But it never seems to, does it? It's wonderful for a day or two or a week or a month, maybe even 6 months. And then the history catches up again. We're suffering again. That was my experience, and it seems to be pretty common. New beautiful tropical place, 2-3 months, new smells, foods, boom, get used to it. There I was again, struggling. Back to where I was in the last place I was at. Different scenery. The core problem is we've been taught that the solution to our contentment and our happiness is outside of us. It's in what we achieve, what we do, where we are, who we're around, who we're partnered with, what our boss is like. If all these conditions are met, we have happiness. But all of these conditions move continuously. You may get sick. Someone you rely on may get sick. Someone you care about may die. So the discovery the Buddha made is that deep inside ourselves is this incredible, it's almost impossible to describe with words, but this incredible calm, smooth, beautiful, silent, beautiful space that's never moving. It's always pristinely still and pristine. And it's never not there. And it's the buoyancy you see in young children that we lose as we become somebody and get wrapped up in what society thinks we should be and what our name represents. So it's an undoing, it's a reverse engineering back to simplicity and what we were before the problem came. The separation, the not good enoughs, the internal dialogue ramped up and ramped up and ramped up. With no internal dialogue, you're going to find the deepest, most beautiful contentment. That's not even awakening or enlightenment, that's not even that. Just that alone, you're going to find a lot of contentment, let alone if you have awakening, if you're graced with that as well. Let alone. The mind is our torturer. The enemy is within, to quote the movie Revolver. Anyone not seen Revolver here? No. The enemy is where you would never think to look. They're playing it. It's a brilliant movie, very clever. And my final line is, the epiphany moment is the enemy was never where you would think to look, where you would never think to look. Where's that? It's your mind. It's not outside, it's inside. It's the one self-harming us. If that's shut down, we're fine. And you'll be amazed by the extra capacities you have instead of the less capacities. Because the mind's going to tell you, or you would be dumb. No, you're going to be far more intelligent. You're going to be far wiser. You're going to see much more. Because the mind puts us in a little tunnel, a little box. The dysfunctional mind. So the functional mind is the mind that gets us to work on time and gets us paid and checks to make sure if we should be going to this job as well, by the way. Or should we be potentially looking at something a bit better for ourselves, etc., etc. That's a functional mind. It's this dysfunctional mind that's this disease that's makes COVID look like a pimple that humanity is suffering from. It honestly makes COVID look like a pimple. The amount of death and suffering and struggle and violence that's coming from this aspect of mind that we don't have control over is the core of the problem. So the work here is to undo that mind. And once that's undone, a sense of peace can arise, a sense of calmness can arise. And then you can truly see the terrain you're in. And from there you can make your next move. Step one, get this under control. There's more steps, but that's step one. Because without this somewhat under control, life is going to be a lot of suffering. It's just proven by billions of people. It's not a small data set. And so, as you know, we do meditate, we do various techniques and interactive dialogues to find out why we're caught or tense. It's the releasing of all tension. It's the let go of all tension. It's the let go of all ideas, all beliefs, all dogmas, all religions, all everything. Just simply what is here now completely as it is now in my experience. No one to pray to, no one to bow to, no one to beg, no one to attack. Just completely within you. Yours. And once it's yours, once you've found this space and what I'm talking about, it's yours completely. And it's up to you whether that stays or not. Nobody can take it from you. It is you, so how can it be taken from you? It is actually you, that deeper self, beyond the first name, beyond the ideas of who we are, beyond the ideas of what we think we are. what we think this is. It's like exiting the matrix. And then the people that put that movie together did this work. They understood that movie was very, very, very Hollywood, but very accurate in its premise. So that being said, shall we see what's going on for everybody? And just one other quick thing, there's nothing new here. What I'm talking about has been talked about for thousands of years, Buddhas, Jesus, Socrates. I think Muhammad was even awake for a little while, then he lost it. Plato came and went. It's all through history. It's not new. And it doesn't matter. Rumi, Kabir, all different corners of the globe, all different languages, all found the same thing without knowing each other or talking to each other. All found the same discovery. It's beyond religion, it's beyond ideology, it's beyond language. Osho, well, this goes on, I mean. Yeah.
How does this reverse engineering actually work? Does it involve using the bit of the mind you can trust to unpick the bits of the mind you don't trust? It's hard when you're in the matrix, isn't it, to get out of the matrix?
Yeah, that's it. And that's the problem with a lot of people that are deeply spiritual and deeply want this, and they may not have a teacher nearby, and they're reading Ramana Maharishi, or they're reading Nisargadatta, or they're reading Osho's work, or they're reading Buddha's work. The problem with all of that is they're dead words now, because they're interpreted through your ecosystem or your mind. So what's written and intended and what's understood and read may be very different things. And the ego and the identity is always going to lean in your favor, unless you're really negative on yourself. But let's just go with the first bit. It's going to lean in your favor, so there'll be words written there that are directly related to you, that are important for you, that you'll skip over. Because it does a little skip. The dysfunctional mind can do this incredible little hypnosis where it just skips over things it doesn't want you to see. It's very strange. And then on the other side, there'll be positive things in there, and you might jump on them. Oh, yeah, I've got all that. And then you start building up this database of knowledge, and then you develop a spiritual ego, and people get very confused. And I've seen a lot of this, and I did this. That can be quite tricky. So the best way is having somebody that knows you, that's home. So you're on. Let's say you wanted to climb Everest. Yeah, be cold. I don't want to do that. Let's say you want to go to Paradise Beach, right? And you've heard of this Santosha Beach, this mystical beach that's just everyone's in paradise there, like the Matrix. Everyone's it's grimy, but they're in paradise, and it's just everything's at peace there, and everything's at rest, and everything's in harmony. You want to find a guide from there. You don't want to find a guide that's heard about it, right? Because they've walked back down the trail they've already trodden and grabbed you, and they're showing you, no, don't go that way, quicksand. Oh, no, be careful of that. There's snakes up there. Don't go that way. Cliff. Right? You don't have to walk all that way, then walk back again, then try and work out, is it this way now or is it that way now? So they come back and get you, and that's the reverse engineering of it. And yes, so the guide helps you to navigate your own filters, and helps you to see your own filters, so you can pick the right direction and keep the sails trimmed and the rudder straight as accurately as possible. Because in my journey, over a couple of decades, I was way over there, then way over there. That's the advantage of somebody guiding you that's coming from that beach that you want to go to. It's peaceful, it's beautiful. Why would you want to be there? So then the best way is with the help of a guide for those custom reasons, and we all have our own set of filters. And then reverse engineering work is done in unison together. Like you're going to use the functional mind that you have that goes, well, this is obviously a better way than that because it makes sense. But prior, due to an incorrect belief system or understanding or a teaching from family, friends, community, that was the way. But then with investigation and simply looking at things in details and what that has brought to you in your life, you can unpick beliefs that you don't even realize are beliefs. And these problematic networks can fall away. And eventually, if you just keep dismantling or reverse engineering these problematic networks we've inherited, and we're born into our bodies like a memory stick of our history and our family's history. And we just drop away these networks and we return back to this very simple, innocent place. It's very beautiful. It's small children experience. But now you can have it with a keen intellect and worldly understanding. You can have that playfulness too, that aliveness, that freshness. Because that's the reason kids are like that is because that's what we are like naturally. we naturally float. But we've been netted down by beliefs and traumas and pains and fears and worries and Instagram and she's doing this and he's doing that. Competition. So we've been anchored. We're in a quiet, desperate drowning, a lot of people. Not knowing why we're anchored. What's Pink Floyd saying? Quiet desperation is the English way, right? Not just the English, right? It's a lot of humanity. Very good line. Desperate to be somewhere else or someone else or something else or better off instead of just at peace with what we have and how we are. Just being completely okay with our life. And that's just so easy in the discovery of what we are because it's just, it dissolves the suffering. It's like a solvent. The Buddha called it emptiness, and all of this fullness is in the emptiness. There's none of this that we can see, touch, feel. None of the sensory objects exist without emptiness. The emptiness is all through that, and science is now agreeing. It's all space. And they can only measure tiny particles, but it appears to be solid, but it's all space. The Buddha was saying that 2,500 years ago. He's the first quantum physicist. Now we've got machines. We've got unhappy scientists on machines telling us about it. The Buddha was blissed out. He was off his rocker all the time. He was in bliss. And telling you about it because he was experiencing it. It wasn't a theory. He was seeing. So you become a seer here. You start to see. You see things beyond the material. And that's because everything is immaterial. Ultimately, if you want to pull back to the finest level, it's spacious. So yeah, there's two aspects of mind, and you use the one aspect to unpick the other. But then it's also a discernment of the aspect that's accurate. It takes a little while to understand which is which. It's because it's just confused. It takes a while for you to know which voice to trust, so to speak, and which one is the functional. And generally the functional one is asking why, where, what, when. It's asking very factual questions. This is a game of facts. This is like a court case of what's true and what's not true. Because if you don't have facts, you have nothing. You have lies. You have belief systems and faiths and hopes when you don't need them. Now's beautiful. The gift is in now. The present is now.
Yeah, I've just been stuck in comparison recently, and basically just seems like I'm looking for outer reasons to confirm the belief that I have that I'm not good enough.
To be very detached from self-harming thoughts and comparison type thoughts. And just come back within yourself and don't attach to these thoughts. Let them go. Imagine them to be horses coming by, riding by. And you didn't create them, they're just riding by. And you jump on the back of them or you don't. They can just ride on by. You don't have to get on anything. Just watch them, admire them, wonder where they came from, and let them go. Because we're not our thoughts. If we're our thoughts, you'd know your next one. A simple test is you'd know your next one and your next one and your next one, but you don't. So we're not creating them. They're coming. They're arriving. And we don't know where from, and we don't know where they go. It's just, but we've all assumed they're us. They're me. That's an assumption. Under factual court-type investigation, you discover they're not you. They're just appearing. But that's, a bit of an investigation. But again, if you were your thoughts, you'd have complete mastery of them and you wouldn't be suffering and you'd know what your next one is. So you obviously can't be them because I don't think you want to suffer. So they might not be yours. They might just be arriving from the abyss and going back to it or wherever it is. I don't know. It's the strangest of things. What I do know is I'm not them. And it's very nice knowing that. It's very peaceful. Get the arm's length attachment, a little bit of distance from thinking. Silence is the purest of languages. The most intelligent one too. It's there's a lot hidden in it. Hidden in plain view. It's just that we don't stop long enough to see it.
I kind of feel like a few of Rohan's responses have touched on this in different ways, but I've just noticed how it kind of feels like there's a pressure from society and all of social media to push for success and being someone and saying I'm the best and I know, and how I really feel is that I'm more interested in figuring things out because I feel like I don't know, and I feel like I'm an introvert and not an extrovert, and I feel like it's painful to push out into the world, and that pushing out and saying that I know and I'm so amazing and fighting for Instagram likes or for, I don't know, some kind of massive success in social media just feels wrong. So yeah, I guess how do I flip that script of feeling ashamed of being an introvert and ashamed of wanting to examine myself and know the truth and be authentic?
Well, first you have to appreciate introverts. Introverts are they're very, very special, and as long as they're not self-harming themselves, but it's just we're in a very, very yang culture here, and the more introverted, yin, soft people we've got, the better off our society is going to be, because it's very abrasive. And a lot of fun, a lot of nice people, but it's also very abrasive and very hard and very superficial. A lot of, how you going, mates, g'day, and it's just sharp stones, like older Buddhism cultures, the stones are all rounded and they don't rub and crunch on each other. Everything just flows nicely. Yeah. So we're still sharp stones. We haven't evolved to a softer, more gentle inward way of being. So it's an evolutionary thing. Being introverted is somewhat of an evolutionary thing, because that's what happens when you start looking inside yourself for answers instead of trying to race around the world, trying to prove yourself to the world or be something in the world. And it's okay if you are somebody in the world or the rest of it. I don't encourage people to be trying to prove anything to anyone. Just do what you love to do. Stay in your heart. And if you do that, you'll probably be successful at some level because you're motivated. So making peace with being an introvert, was that the second part of the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just going to be an inner decision, and it's going to be a wisdom decision. It's also going to be a check-in to see, am I introverted because I'm terrified? Right? Or am I just naturally introverted and terrified, or am I just introverted? Yeah. Just a quiet person. And so then, you just have to discern why the introversion is there and what are all the aspects of it, what's on the table here, how has this been put together? And then if there's harmful things and closures and tensions in there, well, you start examining them and you take them apart, dissolve them until they're not on the table anymore. And then the tension in the introversion can disappear. And the okayness can start to arise, and the peace and the love of it. See, I grew up in a very yang Port Hedland northwest mining town, and it's extremely yang. I mean, it's as yang as it gets, I think, pretty much. And so I built a persona to try and navigate that, and it's survival. But it felt fraudulent over time. I just let that go and let it go and dissolved it and just kept banging into walls, and eventually it all dissipated. My natural, more quieter self was there. The non-survival self. And so it's a wisdom thing to allow that to see, and you can see the value of it. And then you start to see the harshness and the abruptness of people, and it becomes quite... You can handle it, it's fine, but it's not attractive to develop relationships with because it's just so brutal. It's so brutal. So it's an appreciation of it, but in its pure form. So if it's full, like I say, if it's full of tensions, it's worth investigating to see why they're there. But and some of those tensions are simply because introverts aren't generally appreciated that much. And a lot of the great music and the great art and all the rest of it comes from introverts, or especially music, but people drug themselves to burst through their introversion so they can present and handle what they're doing. Of course, there's drugs all through the music industry, and that's a lot of that. That's how they combat it. But these people they create the great music, or let's assume it's great for X, Y, Z, E is right. They're the people that can see a bit deeper and able to put something out that's touching people. And not just blasting people. So I think introversion's a superpower. This room's a bit different to most rooms. It's this, and if you want to wake up, it's a huge advantage and have this deep peace the Buddha talks about. It's very hard to do from extroversion. So you could say it's a wisdom. It's in the wisdom direction. So why not make peace with it if you want to be wise? And it doesn't mean extrovert's bad. No, it's just different, but it's just an advantage in this game. Because the biggest hindrance I see for people that say are extroverted is their whole world is reliant on exterior things, and they're super. They try to be superstars in it, and to reverse out of that is a big deal. Whereas introverts have been sort of looking inwards and watching the world for a very long time, and they know what the shape of a leaf is when they do their art because they've seen it and they've looked at it and they understand it. They were there when they were around the tree. They understood it visually. Whereas an extrovert may not see it, might not even see one tree difference from another. Makes sense? They're just bouncing through the world. And it's all about other people, and it's all relationship orientated and hierarchy related instead of what's here now related. So the quieter or inward person is seeing more. That's what this is, seeing everything. Or at least as much as you can with whatever capacity you have. And when you see everything, you get to see there's no separation. And everything is one thing. There's a deep peace in that. The ego goes, what? No. What about me? Well, no. But that's just the ego doing its dance. And it's going to try and interfere, but it's the most beautiful thing to discover. You can let go of you don't have to run the show anymore. It's already, the understanding is it's already all happening, and it's a beautiful thing. You can enjoy it. You can live in a sense of enjoyment instead of a sense of impending doom or fears of the future and fears of this and fears of that. You can just be human being. You can be a human being instead of a human doing or a human running or a human fearing. Well, I think that's what we're supposed to be. Is there more?
I just noticed that I can slip into like a victim-y state of being, and it doesn't actually feel any good. And I think the things causing it is, one thing would be like selling out and not speaking up, and then becoming a victim of a situation. I think I could do better at, when I recognize it, going back and speaking up, like, because sometimes I'll recognize it and then I just leave it, and then the victimness can kind of linger rather than just like clearing it up. Is there anything else with like getting out of a victim state fast? Because I just don't like it, but it happens.
Yeah, go up to a wall and bang your head on it real hard.
Oh, okay.
A brick wall. Then you've got a new problem. A really sore head. And the victimness will disappear immediately. Now you've got a real problem.
Oh, I remembered the second part.
Yeah.
Well, I think the second part is...
I'm joking, by the way. Just in case there's anybody out there that doesn't get... You know that character out of Guardians of the Galaxy, that really big guy who doesn't get those jokes? And he goes and does it, or it works. Anyway, Carol.
Well, I think the other thing it comes from is like not wanting to own responsibility, and I think at the core of both those things, like not wanting to speak up and not wanting to own responsibility, is the fear of having like conflict with another and being rejected. That's
what leadership is. Risking other people not liking what you're doing. And even talking about you and getting online and backstabbing you and doing all sorts of horrible, cowardly things. That's what happens in leadership. That's how it is. That's the risk you take for being a man or a woman. And you have to embrace that and make peace with that if you want to live fully. Because otherwise you have to live inside other people's packs or shelters or herds or under in a fearful way, isn't it? Like fish, lots of big schools of fish evolved to try and be in the centre of the pack, and they're always circling, trying to get into the centre of the, what do you call it, giant... You okay? Is it a bit hot? Was there a fly? That's all right. What is it? Oh, it's a fly, okay. It's glad it's not a spider or something. I saw you moving your head there. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it's when you don't know what it is, it's a problem, isn't it? Yeah. Being one of those flesh-eating spiders. Start there, right? First protocol. It's a flesh-eating spider. Where were we?
If you want to live a life.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You're gonna have to put yourself out there a bit. I mean, it'd be good if Jules was here tonight because that's where he's at. That's how it is. And then can you accept that, risk of people not agreeing with you, not liking what you say, and even making a legitimate mistake that affects others and taking that risk because you're the one that has to make the decision. Etc., etc. Business leader, business owner, right? They have to make all sorts of difficult decisions. Military leaders, police, firemen, Julian, and they're all going to make these bloody difficult decisions. So that's leadership. That's how it is. It's easy to hide in the pack, but it's not very fulfilling. And it doesn't mean everyone has to be a leader. I'm not saying that, but you need to have the ability to speak up, take risks. If you really, really think something's true, have that conversation. If you think harm's coming from the other end, I mean, over trivia, it doesn't matter. I don't engage there. It's not important. But over things that matter, it's important to at least put your view forward. Because the other might learn something and you might learn something. And they might go, no, that's wrong because of X, Y, Z. And I've done this for years and this is what I discovered. And I used to think like that too. And you get a whole education on something. You miss out on that too. Just by being quiet. And then what happens, you're essentially less street smart or less wise in the world. You're missing all these opportunities. You're just wandering around in your own little bubble on your head. So you don't get input, output. It's just output, me moving out in the world and just, doesn't work out. So you have to make that decision within yourself to start implementing something that's uncomfortable, because it's obviously uncomfortable. So you have to make that decision. Okay, I'm going to start working on the edge of my comfort zone here and slowly head into that. You don't have to barge through and burst down the barn doors and then get overwhelmed and never do it again. Best just slowly and gently and just move into these areas you're afraid of slowly. And the more you do that and the more you get used to extending your comfort zone and widening it, the easier it gets, because you see that the fears were irrational. Each time you step through it and it becomes normalized, you go, oh, that was irrational. And your rear view mirror is going, what was that about? That was ridiculous. Looking at it as you're driving up to it or walking up to it, it's like, oh my goodness. But it was a mirage.
I think she also talking what's coming up is I think I'm afraid of being like really angry person, because I think sometimes
a lot of people like that are very angry inside because they're terrified of it ever coming up, so it's all bottled down, and then one day it just pop happens.
And I just think the more that I am working on it, the more that that's happening, and then I just don't want to keep going forward, because then I just feel like I think it's also I'm just going to end up like my dad, and that he was very much
understand.
like that.
Yeah. So suppressed anger is not healthy. So don't let the fear of anger coming up deter you. Just be ready for that to potentially happen and work out how you're going to manage it in advance. What's it going to look like? And so then you have a plan, so then you're not afraid, but here it comes. Okay, well, I've already worked this out. I'll get away from my child, get away from my partner, I'll go to the ocean, go for a swim, and scream into the ocean or something, or just run down the beach, or whatever it is. You'll just have, or I'm at work, I'll go outside and whatever, have a shower, whatever you've got planned, and just so you don't suppress it. You've got to let it out, but don't harm people with it, because anger is a very, very intense energy, and it bounces from person to person to person. It's like a virus, and it spreads, and then ends up at some bloody little kid when his dad comes home from school. It's a very toxic, violent energy. So don't give it to anyone. Put it back into the earth somehow. Let it ground out.
I think I also feel like when I see it, and then the more that I'm seeing it, I just feel like really gross and unworthy of love, or like unworthy of good things, because I'm just rotten inside. Sorry if that's really depressing to say.
No, it's quite common. People have these thoughts whether they admit them or not. It's a different thing, right? Yeah. So it's very common. But again, did you sit there, just before dinner one day and start packing all that energy into you, that anger and sadness and low self-worth? No. So were you in charge of putting that together? So are you responsible for it? I mean, and the creation of it? So no. So it's just histories of childhoods, bullying, wrong beliefs, your lineage, your family lineages, history, your trauma of your mum and your grandmum and your great grandmum, what they've passed down, and granddad, and they went through wars, and all these things. These things were all passed down, and also from our own collection in this life, are all stored within us. And again, the first name goes and tries to identify with it, but no, these were just occurrences that happened by the collisions of time and collisions of events. And the collisions of events with certain mindsets at that time. So somebody that's really done a lot of work, these same events wouldn't traumatize them at all. They'd wash straight past them. Make sense? So it's just mechanics. It's not personal, it's mechanical.
I think I just realised as well, like a big tool in coping with it, I think, is apologising, or like remembering that I can apologise for it, like if it comes up. Or
You make them say, "Oh gosh, don't know where that came from. Sorry, I'm having a bad day." Okay. You know what I mean? People are so worried about things. Even if you screw up, you can always apologise and make amends. So we have these like tiny little things, like I'm afraid of this anger coming up, these tiny little latches holding huge gears in place of suffering. And if you were just to accept it and go, "Oh, you know what, I'm just going to let that gear roll." And it'll roll on out of your life. That tiny little thought patterns holding a whole bunch of suffering there potentially. It's just you carrying everywhere you go, sitting in the background, worried about it coming up. It's a weight you're carrying. So let this work, you start to feel more and more weightless, like gravity gets lighter and lighter. These gravity like pulls on these objects, these mental objects, metaphorically. But that's actually how it feels. I remember a Zen guy says it feels like you're floating when you walk. It's like that, like your gravity's gone. The things that gravity's pulling on's gone. It feels like that. The buoyancy of a child again, right? They're light. You see how your little girl moves around. There's just this lightness, isn't it? It feels like that. Not weighed down by who we think we are in the world and our responsibilities and all this stuff. Though you still have them all. And even more things can go wrong. But you're not attached to things. They're not personal, they're mechanical. And so you enjoy the show. And you can see the mechanics arising a lot earlier because you're simple and quiet, and there's telltales before they arise, so you can see what's coming. You're not lost in your own mind and suffering. You're seeing silently. The witness state. Making sense? Your mind's gone now. Which is a good thing.
How do I not take things personally?
Yeah, good question. Well, and it might be a bit of a confusing answer right now, but the ultimate answer is when you realize there is no personal, you're free. And the I, the separate I that goes by your first name, is discovered to be unified with everything else around it, and it always was, and we just got confused by education and the way we interpret the world. And so until we understand that, we're going to take things personally.
And how do I not believe my thoughts?
By not believing your thoughts. So that's the problem. It's such a hypnosis, is that because our thoughts come in our own voice. Have you ever had thoughts come through your head that don't sound like your voice? Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? A lot of those voices that come through that sound like yours are the same as the other ones. they're just mimicking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is I'm sure, as I'm feeling as I'm saying, this might sound a bit odd, and I've sort of deep dived straight into deep answers, but the ultimate truth is taking something personally means you've identified as somebody separate to reality. Because reality is a unification, it's unity, or yoga. Yoga means union. Yoga, for example, it means union. It was an awakening system where you re-emerged with the whole unification of existence. That's what it started. Now it's a hot pants thing, but that's how it started. Right? That's what it means, yoga, union. So it's yoga. This is the eighth limb of yoga I'm talking about. This is the final stage, is that unification back to understanding that you are everything. Everything's inside you. You're not in it. So that means you're going back beyond an eagle eye view, outside of a solar view, out of a galaxy, out of a cosmos view, where everything's inside you, everything's within. And that's a discovery that happens at some point to everybody that does sincerely pursue this over time. To revelation. So I guess that's a Christian word. That's the revelation. And so that's what this work is here, really. But, there's a lot of untangling of cords that are in the way and anchoring us down, like I said before. Like a cork anchored. So first off, you have to start getting, even just making the idea possible within yourself. Just a possibility. You don't have to agree to it. Just a possibility, because it's just my words right now and not your experience. So just the possibility, the maybe column. Putting it in a nice safe place called the maybe column, where there's no risk there. You're not taking on beliefs. You're not getting hoodwinked. There's no trickery. It's just maybe. Maybe my thoughts aren't mine. So maybe I can take them less seriously. Especially, but I would just start with the harmful ones, the negative ones. Harmful to others, harmful to myself. Just start there, because you've got other thoughts like, yeah, I've only got 10 minutes to get ready for work. I better move. I mean, and you have this functioning that happens, and that's helpful, right? Because you want to get to work on time. That's okay. I'm just talking about these other ones, these blah blah thoughts, just random, of nothing of value. You start there, and so it's just developing an investigation into the thoughts. As I said earlier, if they're your thoughts, wouldn't you know what they're all going to be, and wouldn't they all be really nice? Because it feels better. right? Or do you just get your hand on the table, get a hammer and start bashing it? Do you know what I mean? Like, well, who would do that? Well, that's what we do with the mind, so how can it be ours? Why would we do that? Thoughts just happen. They're a mystery. But what's not a mystery, to me at least, is that whether they're mine or not, I know they're not. I don't care where they come from or go to, really. It's irrelevant because I'm not attached to them anymore and there's peace there. But what I do know is they can quite often match the pain body. If we're carrying a trauma or a pain or a historical fear and all those sorts of things, we can have a lot of thoughts related to it. So here we work a lot energetically and verbally and with practices, and we can heal the pain body. And a lot of negative, painful thoughts, like you just think of the really angry guy in the road grew up without a dad and a violence thing going on. And, you know, they walk around with a lot of anger and lots of negative thoughts towards everybody and everything, and it's coming from that trauma. Does that make sense? So if they were to heal that trauma and it fell out of them, so would all those thoughts. Does that make sense? So it's like that. So that's a lot of the work we do here, is we just unpack what we were given in our lineage, what we came in with, and what we picked up on the way. We just untangle all that, and there's peace and freedom under it all, essentially. And the thoughts drop away naturally with that. But also you have to stop entertaining them and jumping on their back and riding them. You just have to let them go. And learn to let them go. And that's a skill. It's no joke. It's not like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and that's your new way. Yeah. Yeah, well, if you can at least understand what I'm saying and just get the idea that it's a possibility, that's an incredibly powerful thing. And then, you know, I've heard your interest in retreats. That's where we can really deep dive into all that, and you can really get to see what I'm talking about. That's what they're for. It's just this massive deep dive, and you get to see it for yourself from your out. I'm not going to convince you of anything. We're just going to keep investigating, and you're going to see, you know, if you were to come, or what we do is just to investigate and see what's true and what's not true, and all these things naturally untangle just in the facts of the matter, the unbiased facts of the matter. And the personal drops away in that. So a judge in a court is unbiased, right? Their job is to be unbiased. So that's what we're like. We're like a relaxed, hearty judge, just looking at all the data and seeing what's true and what's not true. And everything untangles in that. And then there's an energy field involved too that's unique to Satsang that helps stabilize you while you do that work. And it's a bit of a mystery, all of it, but it's pretty cool. Yeah. But so that was my first experience of Satsang. I came into a room, I did 1 or 2 Satsangs, and I went straight into a retreat. And then I got to see what it was, and that's what made me continue, is because I got to see for myself what the teacher was talking about. I got glimpses of it, and I went, oh my God, okay, now I get it. Now I've just, how do I hold it? How do I make that not just something that comes and goes, and just get glimpses of it beyond what we think we are and what we think everything is, and it's just so magically beautiful. And that's like this golden invitation, you know. You can't forget you've got it. So that's what that's all about. So we retreat to the deep dive because we're so entangled in the world day to day otherwise, and it's just we can actually retreat from the world and truly get a window of time to stop everything and just see what's happening without all of that external, you know, like ripples on the ocean, waves going this way, wind going that way, boats going past, and just all this kerfuffle. What's under all that ruffling? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. What's under all that when I'm still? What's there? Yeah. It's nice to have you. Nice to meet you. I hope it makes sense. Does it make sense? Yeah. It's not a common thing. What's that, sorry? Yeah, some of it. You don't expect to catch it all. Right? The times I've said things to somebody. It's normal. It was the same for me. takes a while because we're so firm in our seeing and our filters. It's like we're wearing 30 filters over our eyes. So you can hear something, but you can't hear it because your filters are so strong, it just passes by. And at some point, boom, it hits, oh my God, that's what that means. Or I see that now. And there's just a revelation, a mini revelation. And this tint of reality can drop off and you can see clearer and everything. The colours come brighter and clearer and more accurate, and life gets more beautiful. Yeah, it's just like this. I used to watch when I was a kid. What do they call it? It was one of the entertaining things we had up north. Was the speedway, and they were all mud flying everywhere, and they had all these strips over their helmets. So there was so much mud they wouldn't be able to see. So they'd have these strips, and they just come off, and they had like 10 of them on. So it's like that. You just keep removing them. Oh my God! Like there's no filters anymore, and everything's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, the filter. Yeah. Reality is the best thing ever. It really is. It's the distortions that kill us, that are hurting us. Reality is incredible. It's not spiritual. See, people would say I'm a spiritual teacher, and I'll even say that just because that's what people understand. Again, that's the filters I'm dealing with. Actually, it's a reality. I'm a reality teacher. It's only spiritual if you're not in reality. I assist people unveil reality. I'm not a teacher of anything. We're just working together. I'm just showing, like I said, you come back from that paradise, you come back down the trail, and you know, this is the way, that's all. That's what I found. Don't go there, don't go there.
Yeah, how to work through shame.
How to work through shame. Well, what do you know so far? How would you approach it now?
I think see mistakes as things to learn from and not to punish myself. I guess there's no real benefit in punishing, is what I've seen.
Yeah, it's a good angle on it. What's the benefit of shame? What's the upside? What's the win? Start there. What's the win in shame? What's the one thing you can get out of it?
It's actually hard to find.
There is none. So straight away, that's the first. Now then you know, okay, there's no upside. So there's no value in holding it, obviously.
Yeah, it almost seems like from society the thing that I'm supposed to do if I make a mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Well, then that's probably a little bit what was coming up just now for you. Well, if you're being shamed, what does that mean historically? Like, let's say 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 years ago in the African jungle, and you were shamed by the tribe.
Yeah, it's like I'm.
Well, let's say no, the African desert. Let's say
Yeah.
the jungle's got lots of food in it.
I just imagine like being hung on a stick or something like that.
Okay. Let's go there then. It's a desert with some sticks. Shrubberies.
Like you've been punished, naughty. You're going to hang out here for a bit and think about what you've done.
Well, worse, it might be you can't come back.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm going to have to fend for myself.
Yeah, abandonment, loneliness, and you're probably going to die because there's not enough people to hunt together and to hunt the whatever, gather. So it's deep in our primal thing that shame's a really, really bad thing, but really, again, it's not personal. It's just something that's trapped in your system. And if you don't recycle it and keep feeding it with thoughts and letting the thoughts loop and just re-energize it with thoughts, and you can let it go and keep doing the practices you're doing, your Osho dynamic meditations and gold showers, meditations, etc. You can learn, you can cultivate the ground, as they say in Buddhism, and a shame can arise within you, a feeling, which is there's an energetic content to it and a thought content to it, right? And they can arise, but you've done enough work and you're proactive enough ahead of time when things are going well, that when these difficulties arise in your system, it's landing on a very clear, clean, pristine table. And it sits there and you can see it and it's okay. It's not a weapon that's beating you up. That makes sense? It's not a foreign entity threatening your life or anything. It's just something that's arisen and there it is, and it's watched and stayed with, and maybe you'll adjust some of your physical practices to help loosen that up, and you'll increase your meditations and to let the mind loop back and feed it and it re-energize it. And it can dissolve. And there may be visions of history or thoughts that come, and you can start tracing out its life, and it may not even be that. It might not even be this life. It could be from your dad or your granddad or a past life. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's handy if you do know a history of it, because you can follow the roots down and then tie this root to that root and just get a deep removal of all the roots. But if that's not there, that's not there. It's a matter, again, of just seeing the mechanicalness of it and staying the witness and the observer. The innocent observer, that's what we are. Really, the awareness, we're pure awareness. It's all awareness. This is all awareness. Everything you're experiencing is through awareness, your awareness. And you've never not been aware, you just not realised it because you're busy, distracted. Can you remember a time you were ever not aware? I mean, even if you're remembering something 5 years ago, there's an awareness remembering it. And if you look closely, you'll find there was an awareness there at that time too, even if it wasn't a suffering. Awareness is the constant. It doesn't move. If you think of if you just think for a minute, guys, of something you got coming in the future, an event, or maybe even the retreat and dinner at the first night of retreat or something. Is there are you aware? Is there an awareness aware of that future event? Is there an awareness looking at it, or is there something else looking at it? That's a question. You see what I'm saying? And right here now, is there an awareness here? Are you aware? Yeah. Same thing. That's the constant. That's where we need to learn to remain. And the awareness is aware of shame and thoughts that come from shame. It's not the shame or the thoughts that come from shame. Like that TV there, it doesn't care about the pixels at all. It loves the show.